Yep. I think, yeah, good evening, class. Last week,
Evening, sir.
good evening, Zena.
Hi.
So because of the right, so, the concept behind demand and the factors that affect demand. And currently, we are still dealing with demand aspect of it. So we are not done with the cost because at the law of demand, there are some other factors that we have to look at in order to complete this aspect of demand. So we have to look at the, because we said the law of demand says that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. But there are some exceptions to it, whereby that law will not be applicable, or what can make demand curve not to come downward, because demand curves always occur in form of a downward sloping shape. It's coming from up to the down. So that's the demand curve. It's downward sloping. So, but there are some situations whereby the law of demand curve will not be able to give you a downward sloping, whereby when the prices of goods and services increase, people will still demand more for that particular goods. And when the price comes down, people will demand less for it. So that's what we want to look at now. So, and the first factor that might bring about the exception to the law of demand is war. War. When there is war in the country, when there is crisis, and people discover that now there is a kind of speculation. People are saying that, oh, this war might last for like, let's assume 3-4 months. And due to that, the price of things increase, and people will still keep on buying goods, buy more than that, and keep them inside. Those people that got that governments are likely, or government wants to lock us inside for some period. Most of them decide to just use the money, the little money they have with them, to go and buy goods, despite the fact that they've increased the price of that particular goods. They are still demanding, they are still buying it. For example, now let's even forget about food item. Let's look at like nose mask now. Then nose masks are just meant for those people working in the hospital, either doctor, nurse, admin staff, all those ones working in the hospital. So, but due to the fact that nose masks is now the most important thing to prevent the COVID disease, so they increase the price in the markets, and demand for that nose mask also increase, despite the fact that they've increased the price in the market. Before, they do buy for like 20 naira. Now they've increased the price to 100 naira. Look at the margin. That's the about times 500. That's times 5 of it. That's 500%. So that's the exception to it. It's going to make the law of demand not to comply with the price of that particular, with the normal the law of demand that says that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. That's number one. Then, if you look at another thing that can cause the increment in, or the exception to the law of demand, is depression. During a depression, the prices of commodity are very low, and the demand for them is also less. When there is depression, if you are talking about depression, that we are talking about a situation whereby the businesses or the activity of that particular country or economy is not going very well. People are no longer selling very well. There is no price, there is no sales, demand is low. At that situation, the economy is facing what we call depression. You see depression under business sector when economic activities is going down, like what Nigeria is facing currently now. So during the depression period, there's going to be goods outside. Supply will supply more to the market at lower price. And then people will do. So at that point, demand for that particular goods will be low, despite the fact that they've reduced the price to a minimal level. That's depression. So that one will not comply with the law of demand. They are in that situation, you just discover that you reduce the price to a certain level. Before people come and even buy the goods, they buy just because that it's necessary and it's compulsory for them to consume the goods you are selling. Except that they will not even touch the goods. It's also one of the exceptions to it. Another one is given paradox. That means if a commodity happens to be a necessity of life, like wheat, its price goes up. Consumers are forced to buy it. What are we saying? If the goods is necessity, you can't do without it. It's a compulsory goods that everybody will surely demand for it, that you have to do, you have to make use of it. Without it, you won't be able to live very okay. So that kind of goods, if they increase the price times 2, people will still buy it. Increase it times 4, people will still buy it. For example, let's look at toothpaste now. Indirectly, it's a necessity goods for us that you can't even do without it. If they increase the price 2 times, let's say you're buying it for 500 now, before they now increase the price to 1,002, that doesn't mean you stop buying it. You still be demanding for it, still buy more of that particular goods. So, or if you are looking at inferior goods that are not even necessary for you to buy. For example, Gary. Practically, Gary is meant for poor people in this country. That's the way we look at it. So we are going to take it like that. I'm not saying Gary is for poor people, but I'm just using it as an example. So you can't be expecting rich man that has money, that's enough money. Even if they reduce the price of Gary to 50 naira, that will not make him to go and buy it. He's going to buy it just maybe once in a while, of which the quantity that I wanted to buy, that's what he's going to buy, despite the fact that they've reduced the price to that level. So it's an exception to the law of demand. So that's another aspect of it. Another one is ignorance effects. Consumers buy more at a higher price under the influence of the ignorance. If you don't have information about something, you lack the information about something. Okay, maybe they are selling at so place at a certain price, whereas at your own area or your own society, they are buying that certain amount. Because you don't have choice, you don't even have the information about that particular product. So you don't have choice than to just buy it like that. So that's another aspect of it. Another one is speculation. Speculation. If customer are having the information or the overhead that they want to increase the price of a certain product, they will buy it down They will stock the product and they will keep on increasing the price. They will still be buying it. Like talking about the petrol. If government pass the information out and say, okay, they want to increase the price of petrol on, let's say, 2 days to this time. So at that point that the customer got the information, what they will do is that to buy it and stock it inside, despite the fact that they know that it's very dangerous for you to keep petrol inside. And at filling station, they've even increased the price. They will still be buying it because they are expecting that the price of the goods is going to increase. For example, now if you look at the breweries, Nigerian breweries, consolidated breweries, Guinness, those people, whenever they want to increase the price of any of their goods, they will send a circular that everybody, all the customers, their distributors, we get the information. So once they got it, they will not make use of it to buy more because they have the speculation. They are expecting. There is speculation that okay, something is going to happen. So for that reason, they will buy more of it, despite the fact that they've even added additional money to that. That will make the slope of demand curve not to be downward sloping. It's now be upward sloping like supply curve. Those are the major reason or exception to the law of demand that can make law of demand not to comply, not to be at the same level, not to give us the same reason. So those are the factors that we have to look at in the terms of saying the exception to the law of demand in any situation. So let's move on to another concept. At this point, with this last week, we discussed about factors that affect demand. One of those factors that affects demand is income. That's the consumer income. So we have some factors that makes the demand curve to change, to shift. We have some factors that make about a movement in demand curve. So the factor brings about shift in demand curve. One of them is income. And we have any question? So now we want the income aspect of it. But in studying the income aspect of it, we are going to assume that other factors are constant. Other factors are constant. If you are saying other factors are constant, that means ceteris paribus. That means other variables such as price of that commodity, they are all constant. So it's just the price, it's just the income that is changing. So if you are talking about income is changing, that means maybe the income of the consumer has increased or decreased. So what is going to be its effect on the goods you are buying? Let's assume your mom do give you maybe 1,500 in a day for your feeding. With that 1,500, what you can buy is just 2 plates of rice or spoon of rice, and let's say some with 1 drink, like or 2. So now your mom has give you maybe means was there is no any other changes in terms of the price of the commodity, in terms of competitors bringing out another product that will change the taste, that will give you the best taste. So what is going to happen? You are going to demand more because your income has increased. So you demand more, you buy more of necessity goods. That means those goods that are necessary for you. But if your income has reduced, and that means demand, price for the commodity, price of other commodities, taste, all those factors remain constant. So, and your price and your income reduce, it's going to affect the quantity of goods you are buying. The quantity of goods you are buying will reduce. That will now bring about movement on demand curve. That means what you are buying, if your income reduce, your quantity demand will also reduce. So on demand curve, you are still going to maintain the same demand curve. With that demand curve, you discover that the price remain the same, but the income, as income is reduced, your quantity you are demanding will also reduce. Then once your income increase, the quantity you are demanding will also increase. That's movement along demand curve. We say that it relates to the various quantities of a commodity or service that will be bought by the consumer at various level of income in a given period, other things being equal. If you hear anything saying other things being equal, they are constant. None of them has things that are assumed to remain equal are the price of the commodity in question. That means the price of the commodity is still the same. Prices of related commodities still the same. The taste, preference, habits of the consumer, all those things still remain the same. So we are now going to check the effects on the goods they are demanding. That's what the income demand is all about. At this point, do you have any question? Zainab?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, let's proceed to, if your income in the quantity you are demanding also increase, there's a positive relationship. The under examination condition, if they are to ask you between income and quantity demand, there's a positive relationship between income and, because once your income increase, quantity demand will also increase in that direction. Once your income reduce, the quantity demand in between to another concept under the, this concept is talking about the, if you hear demand, that means it's the same time. So what is going to be the effect on the other products? If the price of textbook change, what is going to be its effect on, let's assume, a calculator or something else that are used together? Or if the price of Coke change, what is on quantity demand for car? How many cars will people demand more? It's now for you now to determine of saying that, okay, what kind of relationship between the two goods? Is it a substitute goods or complementary goods? Or they don't even have any relationship at all? If it is substitute goods, that means like Coke and Pepsi, they are substitute goods. If the price of one increase, you can go for the other one. If they decide to increase the price of Coke now, you just discover that the Coke they are selling for, let's assume the Coke they are selling for 150 now, they are not selling it for 200. People will switch from Coke to Pepsi. They will now be buying more of Pepsi than Coke because the price of Coke has increased. So demand for Pepsi will now increase. That is a substitute goods because you can substitute the other goods for this. So a goods, when there is a substitute, when there is a changes or increments in the price of one goods that they are substitute, the demand for the other one will increase. If the price of Coke goes up, the demand, people will switch from Coke to Pepsi. That means the demand for Pepsi will also increase. There is a positive relationship between the two. Like we're talking about different toothpaste. Some people use Close-Up, while some use Maclean. If the price of you that I don't even have taste, for anyone that you see, you just make use of it. Now the same function that they perform. So that kind of person, if the price of Close-Up increase like this, someone like me, I will switch to Maclean. If increase the price of Close-Up from 500 to 750 without adding any other additional value to it, while every other thing remains constant, I will switch to Maclean and buy more of Maclean than Close-Up. So in that situation, there is a positive relationship between the two. I'm using my time to explain this aspect because it's always complex in terms of whenever they choose the question. So what you just mean that the substitute goods, there is a positive relationship between quantity demand and the price. Let's now move to complementary goods. What is complementary goods? Complementary goods is a goods or a combination of two goods that goes together. They go together. Without one, the other one, the second one cannot exist. Without A, B cannot work. Without C, D cannot move. For example, without petrol, car cannot move. They are complementary goods. So we have to study what is the relationship between the two. Without kerosene, stove cannot work. They are complementary goods. They complement each other. They work together. Mommy and daddy work together. So without one, the other one will not work effectively. So if they increase the price of petrol, the petrol they are selling for 1,500, they now increase it to 2,500. People will demand more. They now demand for car will reduce. People will not demand for car. They prefer to go to enter public transport, despite the fact that there is this thing. They have the money to buy the car or do some other thing. So because of that, they will go for public this transport. That's complementary goods. The higher the price in that petrol, the lower the quantity demanded. So the other aspect of it is kerosene and petrol. The kerosene and stove. Demand for kerosene. If the price of kerosene increase, demand for stove will reduce. There's a negative relationship between complementary goods. When the price of one increase, demand for the other one will reduce. That's a complementary goods. So that's the relationship that exists between those two goods. Do we have any question in this at this point now? In the absence of no question, can we move on to, or we revise what we've done before we discuss about another topic, that's the supply. So we are done with demand. We can move on to supply next week. So demand, we discuss about the meaning of demand, discuss about the factors influencing demand. It talks about the individual demand, market demand. Individual demand is talking about the quantity that each person or individual is buying in the market. While the market demand is talking about the total demand for that market, for the set of goods that everybody bought in that market. So we look at the changes in demand and the law of demand. I think at this point, we are done for today's class. Thank you.
Zainab, do you have any question?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you for the class. I think we have to go off now.
Thank you very much. All right.
Bye.
All right.